Welcome to the Indie Music Room, a conversation with independent artists about writing, recording, performing, and promoting their original music. And now here's your host, Heather Kelly.
Hey everybody, this is Heather Kelly, your host with the Indie Music Room. It's been a great summer. I'm super excited today to introduce you to, and it was going to be a couple guys, but unfortunately one, had to take care of business. So here we are, and I'm going to introduce them as the new duo, the exact opposite from Oxford, the city of dreaming spires, by the way, in the United Kingdom. And today with me, I have the drummer, multi-instrumentalist, Nigel Powell. When I first heard that, I thought instantly of Austin Powers for some reason. But now that I've gotten to know him, he's even cooler. So here we are. I want to introduce Nigel Powell, and he's going to tell us everything about the history of him and his other partner who was unable to attend today. That would be Jamie Stewart. And let's give him a big welcome. Hi, Nigel.
Hello, Heather. It's very nice to meet you. Yes.
It is my pleasure and privilege. Why don't you just kind of fill everybody in, exactly where you're from and a little bit of your background, and we'll go from there.
So I've been in bands with Jamie for a long time now. We're of a certain vintage. I grew up in London, moved to Oxford in 1985. I was in various bands. A band I was in was doing quite well, and then we broke up. And then on the local scene, I heard that there was a band called Dustball who'd been doing quite well, who needed a drummer. As it turned out, the drummer that they had stolen the lead singer's girlfriend, and that was what caused them to be needing a drummer.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
So I let it be known that I was interested in the drummer job, not anything else. And Jamie was the lead singer, guitarist, and kind of main songwriter of that band. So that was end of 2000, beginning of 2001 that I joined Dustball. We changed our name a little while afterwards to Dive. And
yeah, you know what? I did do a lot of, speaking of Dive, I did a dive into your history, and I did check out a lot of that. That kind of seemed to be when you joined forces. That was kind of your first collaboration to put together a band, was it? Because you were doing other things, or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in lots of other bands, but that's the first time I've been in a band with Jamie, okay. And then that kind of has carried on for a lot of time. Mm-hmm. And we made 4 records with Dive, and I mean, I'm very proud of all of them. There's one called Potential, which I think is,
Oh, it's fantastic! Absolutely, that's what I said. I went on a deep dive into some of your stuff in the past. So that was what year? That was 2001 when you guys kind of got together?
2001, I joined Dustball, and then we became Dive in, I think, 2002, 2003. And then we kept going on paper until 2018. I think we released our last album. But we'd kind of been on ice, or it had been very part-time for quite a while before that, because on one of the tours that Dive did, we were supporting a band called Reuben around the UK, and doing T-shirts for them was
screen printing.
No, like selling them on the road.
Oh, selling! Merch. You're doing merch. Okay, I thought you were. Okay, got it.
No. Sorry. The Dive was supporting Reuben, but they were doing T-shirts for them. Was the lead singer of another band on their label. Okay. And his band were just breaking up, and he needed a backing band. So we said, "What about us?" Mm-hmm. Jamie didn't really get involved with that, but the other 3 members of the band did. And then that career kind of took off. And was
that the Frank Turner or something?
That's Frank Turner.
That's the one. Okay, got it.
Okay. So that was about kind of 2005, 2006. Mm-hmm. And that got busier and busier. So three of that of Dive were off like for 9 months of the year doing tours with Frank Turner. So Dive kind of took a back seat. Mm-hmm. And eventually it just
May I interject there?
Please do.
Can I ask you when here's the thing is a lot of players, tend to be in multiple acts, and trying to balance the schedule and availabilities. Was that a point of contention at all ever with Dive Dive?
Um, Not really. I mean, I know what you mean, and certainly I don't know how I survived because 2005, 2006.
Hmm.
In fact, even beyond that, up to 2007, Dive were doing between 50 and 100 shows a year. I had a young family, and I was working as a teacher in a college, and I was also kind of part-time a lighting operator for a local venue. So I was kind of absolutely flat out for about 3 years. I didn't have time to sleep barely.
Hey, it takes, I mean,
But
it takes a lot for a family, I know.
yeah, yeah. But I don't remember it ever really being an issue.
Okay.
When we ended up being away a lot, I think Jamie was a little bit, oh, everybody's gone away and kind
Yeah.
of abandoned me. But he's kind of quite stoic Englishman, so
Yeah.
he never really said anything. You know, we had to guess from him tutting occasionally that he was annoyed.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that. I myself, my band that supported me, by the way, people that weren't here prior to the interview, Kurt Kaufman, my partner and engineer of the studio and everything, they had a great conversation. And so Kirk and his partners from the Hawks, the band that he had such a great run with back in the 80s, basically Dave, who was a member, Kirk was a member, um, they were in my band, and then a couple other people, but they were all so significantly older than me. They didn't want to go tour where I was young enough and hey, I was spry, I wanted to go. So I wondered about that contention thing, like when things don't quite match up, if you guys were just waiting for the perfect moment or what happened. So
Yeah, I mean, it was really just taking things as they come. I'm a little bit older than Jamie, only by kind of 4 or 5 years, and the other members of Dive, and I was 10 years older than Frank when I got into that band. But for for better or worse, I've been absolutely committed to being a musician since I was like 13. So I went on the road. I mean, we toured a lot. Frank was insane for touring. He just loved it. His entire personality was built on him being on the road. So we toured a lot, and
Was
it's
that prior to you kind of being a family man? You were on the road a lot before then, or was it during that time too? Or
it was throughout. So
I just don't
and
know how you balance that, but I commend you for doing that. That's pretty cool.
well, it's nice that you commend me, but honestly, the reason I'm on my second marriage is because I
Oh
spent
shit.
an awful lot of time on the road.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and I mean, I'm not sure how well I did balance it because I was away a lot, and I justified it. On the one hand, that was what I always did. On the other hand, I don't know if this was just me kidding myself, but I always thought I wanted to be around as much as possible for my kids, but I also wanted to be an example. If you work hard, you can achieve something. And I was having a career,
Yep, it's a hard
but
balance. It's a hard balance.
but I abandoned them an awful lot, and I
I
I still feel guilty, even though they don't care now. They're in their
I
twenties.
understand that. I understand that. But what I would tell you is I think at the end of the day, you really did show perseverance, something you're passionate about. So I would say, if I may, uh,
Please.
let's let that go. I think that with difficulties and challenges come along lessons. And I think you did a great job. Okay. So let me ask you this. The first song that we're going to talk about, and I'll tell you, we talked about this order. You asked me about my opinion. I'm like, I can't tell which I mean, there is not one that's better than other. I mean, the quality and the consistency is there throughout all three. So I was like, energy, let's go out with energy. But the first one we're going to talk about today was actually if I'm correct, the FFS song. Is that correct?
Yeah, which is kind of the current single, if you
Yeah,
like.
yeah, yeah. I want to hear about. I mean, I listened to it. I just want to hear about like where you were, what your mind was. Do you write the music before and then the words after? Just tell me what your process was and where you were when this came about.
So Jamie is Jamie's kind of mainly the songwriter. I've always thought of myself as an excellent collaborator
Ah,
because Jamie's kind of I love Jamie's songwriting. I love working with him.
very
It's
cool.
it's it's the reason why we came back together after Dive Dive broke up and kind of after the pandemic. I called him, said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I've written loads of songs because I just can't stop writing." And
I think
he
every artist in the world was saying that at the same time. So many people have said, well, during COVID, you're right. I mean, what could else could you do, So if
yeah.
anything, it was good for that. But okay, so he was writing a lot and
He was writing a lot, and with Dive Dive anyway, it used to kind of start with the two of us. That he would come in with a song, but he would want to hear it with some drums first to kind of get his head into how it would feel.
Mhm.
And I was quite opinionated, and I always wanted to make things sound original. I think he kind of fed off that. So writing wise, it was very similar. It was just the two of us in a rehearsal room, and he would play something, and I would see how it felt, and I would play something. That FFS particularly, we don't talk about it beforehand. The communication's all musical, so he just comes in and plays something, and I play along. And I find out later, actually, when we've been doing interviews for the album, I found out that it wasn't what he intended for this song at all, because lyrically it's about making the same mistakes over and over again, and just kind of every time you face palm and then you go
Yeah.
and do it again. And he thought musically it was going to be quite kind of aggressive and annoyed. And he played it to me, and I actually, do you remember the song Funky Cold Medina by Tone
Yeah.
Loc?
Yeah, funky comedy. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Okay. I'm totally
and
from the 90s, 80s. Yes, I got it.
and he played it to me, and I was like, that's the rhythm from Funky Cold Medina. Da, 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 da,
Yeah.
da, 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 da. So
Yeah.
I started playing kind of a slightly more, upbeat version of Funky Cold Medina,
Uh-huh.
and it immediately sounded amazing. So Jamie was like, "Well, it doesn't,
I would have started
doesn't
laughing. I'm like, that's it.
yeah, yeah," and it felt right. I love that song. Every time we play it live, as soon as we kick in, I can't help but smile because it's just fun. It makes me feel
Do
like
you do those
driving.
two beats in like duh, duh. Is that your in like your
Yeah,
intro?
I haven't, but now that you've mentioned
Okay.
it, I think I might start doing that.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but
This is great.
it's just it's a fun song that puts a smile on my face and makes me feel like driving down a country lane in a convertible in the summer.
It is interesting. I want to talk to you about that collaboration quick. I like the fact that you guys. I was speaking to you about this prior. My project with Kirk was originally started out as a duo. We were kind of the medieval pop duo. I had
Okay.
an orchestral, classical background. He had this Beatleistic and this rock and roll thing. So we did this thing, and it was really cool. But of course, being I would say a newbie to the business, I wanted big, right? And he liked this. He liked the air that our duo provided and stuff. Um, I noticed you guys were talking about when you do perform live. There was a point when you guys were trying to decide, do we make it bigger or do we keep it cool, like in this cool like duo thing? And the challenges that come along with maybe having a backing track to have to play to, to fill out those things. I was quite impressed with how full your sounds, your duo sounds. And especially with this FFS one was my first one that I listened to. I just thought as far as collaborating, something you may write and something you may have already planned out to the very last measure could be totally wiped in one day and better. So you have to have the mind space and be able to, be able to set your ego aside and be able to collaborate with people, because that's when the good stuff comes, is when like you are exponential on the drums, and then you've got you're a multi-instrumentalist. He's a great vocalist. And I mean, just this thing where you kind of ebb and flow together, that's what made it work, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. The collaboration, I always relish it. What I want to hear, and therefore, what I tend to try and bring to a situation when I'm collaborating is if I've written something, I want to present it to somebody, and for them to do something I wasn't expecting at all.
It's an honor.
Yeah, because I mean I don't know if everyone can do this, but I can certainly arrange something entirely in my head, and I've made solo albums, and I know how it's all going to go, but that isn't that exciting to me. I would rather not know how it's all going to go. I'd rather come in with a very vague idea, and somebody to go, aha. You know, it's like the thing of me hearing something and going, "That sounds like Funky Cold Medina," which Jamie wasn't thinking at all. And it takes the idea, points you in a different direction, and it's kind of, you can feel the excitement of discovery in something like that, as opposed to the, I've got this planned, now let's just do the thing that I have planned. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
I absolutely do. And I'll tell you what, we're going to go ahead and show everybody the song FFS that we're talking about. And when we come back, I want to just go ahead and touch a little bit more on that learning to drop the ego and collaborating thing. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and say the exact opposite with their song FFS, and we'll be right back with you.
Time I've come to realize I'm wrong.
FFS guys. And not only do you guys have like great music, but you have also put out videos. Where did you find the time to do that as well?
I mean, necessity was the place I found the time.
Yeah.
But I think it is important to have something visual to, try and bring, get the music out to the people who want to hear it. But I love films. I don't consider myself a filmmaker or a video maker, but we didn't have the money for anybody else to do it. So I just came up with ideas and we made videos.
Fascinating, actually. I'll tell you, and these days with technology, I don't think that, I mean, you're blessed if you have the budget for the big things, but I mean, I can hardly tell the difference from what you guys did with nowadays with the technical editing software we have and such, I think it looks great. I think it fits, the particular track. And do you have a method to the madness? Do you like kind of say, okay, now that we were on to the funky comedita beat, like what do you have in your mind? I mean, what is your, do you just go shoot a bunch of content and say, well, let's put something together?
No, the video does tend to does tend to come from me in a planned way.
Okay.
And Jamie is game for anything, but isn't, he's happy to go, yeah, looks good. And then when I tell him that he has to go and stand in a shopping center with the box on his head, he's like, yeah, okay.
I love it.
But
yeah.
it's I mean the FFS video
Yeah.
actually came from have you seen the British show Taskmaster?
That's funny. I haven't. Kirk has talked about that before. So I haven't, but he has. Okay.
Well, it's kind of I love it. It's a silly show where a bunch of comedians are sent off to a house over kind of some months and have to do these silly tasks. Anyway, one of the tasks they had to identify things with their hands, and in order rather than just blindfold them, they put like a box on their heads with like pictures of them on each side of the box. And I'm like, that's cool. That would be cool for a video. And then kind of my brain started working and thought, well, it'd be good if you could have the face moving on the front.
That's
somehow.
how you did that? Oh my gosh. Okay.
And so I just kind of technically figured out how to do it. Again, not knowing any of this technology or how to do this kind of stuff. I
thought it was
Google a couple of
fabulous.
things. Yeah, and I enjoyed it, and it just kind of it seemed to be a vibe that suited the song. Not completely serious, not completely stupid, but just kind of somewhere in that slightly bizarre reality.
What? It is so right up today's alley because everything is so, whether it be AI generated or something funky with a filter or whatever, I mean, that's what I was going back to the computer. And Kirk was saying that too now, like there's so much you can do with technology. And it's one thing I'm going to tell you for people to throw together a track, GarageBand or whatever. I don't even know what it is these days because I'm not in tune to technical stuff, or whatever, a video. I will say it starts with the music being good because if the music's bad, I'm not going to watch a video either. I'm like,
Yeah.
That's why I enjoyed both of them together. It was like, oh, this is a cool package. So
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm looking towards is kind of a synergy where each thing is fully supporting the other, and obviously the music comes entirely first for us as well.
So I wanted to talk to you. I'm older. I would say older. I ain't gonna lie. I'm 49. I just turned 49. That's all right.
Well, I got you beat then. So
You do?
I'm older. I do.
Okay. Well, I
By
won't ask because
3 whole years. Nearly
Oh,
4,
3
in
whole
fact.
years. Oh, okay. Now here's something I want to say. You guys took a break. And then you come back and you reconvene. Don't you feel that at our middle-aged that we are, don't you feel that the experience, like if you take a break and you come back, you have such a better understanding as far as the collaboration point. When I was younger, when we started this in 2006, I was I hate to say it, I was being kind of diva-like, and here's the thing is everybody I worked with was way more experienced, but that comes with time. A lot of these kids, what I'm saying is about you're coming back together is I think you are more polished and experienced. You know what I mean? Like you had some experiences and you put those together and that shows versus just someone like out of the gate like I was, with no like purpose or path. You have it now, and that's what I can hear in the music is experience.
I think that's true, and it's got that kind of that self-assuredness. I think you get that in a lot of
Maybe that's
different
what it is.
aspects of your life. That kind of with friends and sexually and professionally, you kind of go, I am what I am. Everything's. I'm not. I don't feel the need to apologize or try and justify myself. It's just what I am. It can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing. And sometimes I miss the kind of
Naivety.
the fierceness. It's not necessarily naivety, but when you're young and it's like you have an idea and you'll fist fight somebody to try and make that idea happen. Whereas you get a little bit older and you have an idea and somebody else kind of comes up and you go, okay, well, maybe we can adjust my idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which sometimes conflict can produce amazing music, and I think there is a tendency as you get older to not just can't be asked to fight about everything. Hopefully our album's still good anyway.
I was interviewing a girl, her name was Crystal Starr, and she's out in LA. And I told her, I said, do you know how humbling, so it's been 9 years since I decided to move from performing live and doing that thing and writing. I too put out 4 albums and then 22 singles, solo wise.
Wow, amazing.
But I had to transition into something else because everybody's getting old in my band. But also, I had to be present here and be a caretaker for my family. But I'll tell you, popping into this podcasting, and Crystal said, Heather, but no, the truth is, I didn't really know how bad I was until I started interviewing real musicians because, that young, fearless, like you were talking about, just going for it. Like I was young. I didn't have that fear factor of I don't know what it was. I lacked experience, which was good because I just went out there and did it. So I do get that. And then when you get older, it's like, okay, I can hear where these people are coming from. Maybe I should go with their idea, the collaboration part.
Yeah, but I'm just always a big musical pluralist. I want to have some bands that you can listen to which are, sophisticated and thought out and that kind of mature outlook. And I want to have some bands that sound like a flight of stairs falling down a flight of stairs. And
that's fun. And it depends on your mind, where you're at the time. The one thing I will tell you from my experience is recording on 2-inch analog tape, which we have here. You can talk to Kirk about that. It's a treat, but it is so challenging because nowadays I've seen people go, okay, push a button and it relocates back to where you were. You don't have to rewind the tape and and wait for it to sort of and punch yourself. There's benefits and there's maybe not, there's things I like about the 2-inch tape. It's got a warm, fuzzy, like almost a warble that makes me feel reminiscent to the vintage stuff. And then the digital is a breeze because you can recall things so easily. And then you've got the effects to kind of fix it when you're not singing on pitch or whatever. With the fear of not being too overprocessed. That's what I worry about. I love the real. That's another thing about your music, you guys. It's not overprocessed. It sounds very real. I feel like I could hear it in a coffee house, or I feel like I could hear it in a stadium. And I love that.
Good. Yeah. We like the organic, that sense that you might be sitting in a room with us while we're playing it, even though, I think as a producer, I produce the albums, and as a producer, you're trying to find that balance between the fact that a recorded work is probably going to be listened to over and over again. So you do need enough detail in there so that people aren't going, I've heard this.
I get you.
And you're uncovering things, but you don't want it to sound too unrealistic.
That's why I'm saying I'm complimenting you, and the fact that I think you found with what you guys are doing, I think you really found the niche on where to kind of mix and produce and do those things. It comes out sounding, it's pleasant listening, and it's not easy listening, but it's pleasant because everything is working together. Which brings me to my next question. I know you're in your studio here. So does Jamie live within logistically in an area with you, or do you guys file share back and forth? What do you do?
Um, we're not in the same area anymore. I've moved about an hour away from him now. But when we made the album, we were fairly close by. But so let me try and think through exactly how it worked. We were kind of lucky
Okay.
because a friend of mine has a very nice studio in his garden, and he
Yes, go
asked.
ahead and name drop a little bit.
I had no problem.
I love
But
it.
Johnny Greenwood
Yeah.
has been a very good friend of mine since school, and I've been in bands with him and done lots of stuff with him. And he was going away and wanted somebody to cat sit,
Yeah.
and I said I can do that. I said, do you mind if I use the studio? He said, no, it's just going to sit there doing nothing. So we had free use of the
Awesome.
studio, and we had kind of a week in May, but that turned out to be a slight non-starter because I recorded 2 or 3 songs. I was also recording tracks for another band I'm in at the same time. And I remember it was actually the song you just played, FFS.
Yeah.
As I was playing that one, this was in May 22, I think, maybe, well, yeah, something like that. And as I was playing that song, kind of doing a few takes, by the third take, I was like, my head really hurts.
Ah,
And I kind of got to the fourth take and went, I've got to lie down. I did a COVID test and I was
oh
positive.
no.
And I was just flat out for basically the entire rest of the time that we had the
Oh
studio.
no.
So I was on my back for 4 days, couldn't do any more recording. So that was like, oh, I've wasted the studio time.
Shoot.
But we had another, he was away for another few weeks later on in the year. So we used that. And Jamie was working his normal job, but he could kind of come in for a few hours every day and we would record some vocals, record his guitars. I'd finished off all the drums. And it was just, I mean, it doesn't make for a very interesting podcast stuff, but it was just a really easy, pleasurable experience.
Of course it does. Stop that. You know what's interesting is that's really nice that you had that experience because you can't afford artists these days cannot afford to go to a physical studio. I'll tell you one thing about Kirk here at Junior's Motel. He has always been a project studio. So he supports those indie artists. He knows, we're small. You know what? We live on an acreage in the middle of Iowa, maybe 300 or 400 people in the town that's just east of us. But I mean, we are isolated. Nobody would ever know it's on this beautiful acreage, And people come and they love the space. It's got a vibe. And he might, and I don't want to say the price because the phones start ringing, but he does work with people with good intent and good music and hardworking people at a fraction of the rate just because he believes in artists like us so much, But what
That's
a gift to
amazing.
be able to record there.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Oh,
I'm almost, in an English way, I'm almost embarrassed about our luck.
you know what? Luck only goes so far. You earned some of that too. So
Yeah, I fed the cats, so
you did,
they're,
damn right, you
yeah.
did. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about the next song we're gonna this was, I believe, if I'm right, this was your debut single off the debut album, Still Issue. This was a debut single, You Work for Us Now.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
It was one of the first songs that we kind of we finished because initially we didn't know what it was going to sound like because we've been in Dive Dive for a long time. Jamie's writing drove that, so it was going to be similar. But when it was just the two of us, it was like, are we going to build a band around this? Is it going to be just the two of us? Is it going to be something bigger, something smaller? And we played this song, and while we were doing it, him guitaring and singing, me drumming, I could kind of hear something a bit funky arrangement-wise in the background. I said,
Good,
"Let me
good or
go."
bad funky?
Yeah, no, good funky. The,
Okay,
the
good.
good funk, the Nile Rodgers kind of funk.
Yeah, okay, good.
So I said, let me go away and try actually programming a bass line. It'll be kind of like Madonna in the 80s or something. And Jamie was, to be fair, very dubious because he's a very much a punk boy. But I came back and played it, and he listened to it, and it's like, this is actually really good, and it kind of sets us apart a little bit instead of being yet another guitar band with a bass player hammering away on the root note. It's like it's kind of it immediately appealed to me as a kind of USP.
So is this the one that I almost felt like the bass almost doubled as a synth type song? There was one of them that I was like, wait, this almost sounds a little bit like a, I wouldn't say synth, but like a.
All the basses are synths, and they're kind of supposed to sound synthy. So
okay, this one for some reason popped out to me more than the others. Synth-wise, maybe it was just the parts, that how they interact. I can hear maybe the synth bass a little bit more.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. It's got that kind of early 80s mono synth doing octaves, do 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 kind of vibe.
That's so my jam. That's why. And this again was recorded. This one was recorded at Greenwood's.
Yeah, I mean, so drums, guitars, and vocals were recorded there, and then I would kind of go away, do the bass stuff and percussion and bits and pieces, and mix it in my home studio.
You guys are talented. And on top of managing a family, that blows my mind. That's a full-time job on its own. You guys, let's go ahead and take a listen. Oh, we talked about old. You know what? Okay, here we go. Let's take a listen to You Work For Us Now. And when we come back, I want to hear a little bit more about what these guys are doing, what they got coming up, how you can find them and everything. But we'll be right back with you after this song.
You really have to start again. Place your heads in your hands and begin the count back down from 10. When you're looking out for paying crowds, well, you'll find us there. You really have to start again. Pay for pennies and patrimonies and swap much that we wear till it's worn out of bed. Our teeth to the light, my God, it's so good to be here. So sing us a song how you always knew we would fall to ground. You work for us now.
Okay, that was a crazy moment, but we're back on track. So, what we were getting at, Nigel, is we were kind of getting into that last song, "Look at Him Go." This too is a great song and video. Tell us a little bit about that, and we'll get into it.
It was
Before you conclude, telling me about this, make sure to let everybody know how they can find you, how we can support you, and all that too.
I will do. It was actually the last song that we finished for the album.
Really?
It was
Okay.
yeah. It was a latecomer. We'd kind of mucked about with it in rehearsal, where it was called not Blondie, because I thought it sounded a little bit like Blondie, and but it wasn't Blondie. To my memory, we hadn't really finished it when I recorded the drums. I was recording the drums, and we didn't have a middle eight, and I said, "What are we going to do there?" And me and Jamie sat around with two guitars very quickly, like 10 minutes, came up with a middle eight.
Interesting.
And then I went and recorded it on the drums. And it is one of my favorite songs on the album, which I guess is the reason we started with it. They're all good. Yeah, they're all good.
They're all good. Damn it.
But it's fun. Jamie's written a lot of songs about superheroes in his time. And this is another one of those, and he likes the metaphor, and it's one of those fun. One of the things I really love about Jamie, is he writes songs that are kind of lyrically fairly poignant or quite sad or reflective or introspective, but doesn't feel the need to couple them to music that's slow and one player with acoustic guitar.
There's a way to get your point across, whether it's sad, mad, happy. I mean, you can get it across in a way if you let the music guide it. I mean, I'm not knocking Barbara Streisand or any of those people, but the people, like my mother said before she passed, Heather, the people want to rock. So he has a good way of delivering a message. Good, I mean, sad, a little bit disheartening, in a good, fun, powerful way. I love it.
Yeah, and it kind of gives a different spin to the lyrics as well, because if you put the lyrics with E minor, A minor, E minor,
I had no dog by the name of Blue. Yeah, I know.
Exactly. But having those two things kind of locking together in that way, it's one of the reasons I love working with him, because it's unusual.
Well, and that's why I think you two are work so well together. Is I don't care if it's funky comedina or whatever, but these two minds are crashing into each other in a really cool, productive way, and it's fresh, and I like it. I like it. Don't go to the big band if you don't have to. Everybody does that. Keep it really cool like that. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, part of the reason for keeping it to a two-piece, I think the most important thing that any band can have is chemistry. And once you've got it, adding somebody can just make it go. So
100%. I do know that from experience.
So
I don't miss those days of trying to spin those plates for all those personalities either. I don't, but it's very cool. Hey, I want to tell you before we're going to lead out with this song today, because we've been chatty, so we're going to lead out with this one. You guys, this is going to be the last song today. It's going to be Look at Him Go. Hey, again, Nigel, make sure you tell Jamie I said hello, and anytime we want to just visit. Or if you guys, with this next album, this new material, please let me know. We'll do a follow-up. I would love to. And if I can get you to the States, I'll be at a show. That's for sure.
We would love it. And anybody out there who wants to catch up with us, we're on all the social medias as The Exact Op, because you can't have too many letters apparently. So we're called The Exact Op on, we're on Instagram and Facebook, Threads. We're still on Twitter, but I don't
even know about that thing anymore. Like I used to use it, but I don't even know. I don't know about Twitter. Is it the X now? The X or something?
Yeah. I'm not calling it that. Yeah, I'm just not.
Things come and go. Things come and go. But, I will tell you, to my fans that know this, a lot of the musical guests that I have on as artists, they use the link tree, link in this, where they list everything, and that is something that a lot of our fans look for. So you two also have a link tree.
Yeah, we've got a link tree, which is also The Exact Op.
Oh my gosh. Hey, Nigel, thank you for spending this time with me this morning. It was my privilege. Kirk joined you. The music's great. I think you guys are definitely, whatever you choose to do and how you want to move forward with this, you're definitely in the right direction.
Well, thank you, Heather. It means so much to have people like, you supporting grassroots music, including us, and thank you for doing it.
You are so welcome. Do you know, did you guys find me, or was it Terry with your PR? Okay.
It was Terry, the PR person.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, I've got that email, so we will. And I just want to ask you, is this a man or a woman I'm speaking with? Terry.
It's a woman.
Okay, I've not heard her voice on the phone, and so I didn't know, it's hard to do that. Good, I will address it that way. And I do hope you come back and share your new material. Again, Nigel, Powell, this has been my privilege to have you on the Indie Music Room. And I hope that you guys have continued success, and you're very talented, and I look forward to what's to come.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Indie Music Room will be back in a couple weeks. And don't forget to hit subscribe, not only to me, but to their everything, because it really does make a difference when people support the independent artists. So these guys, you need to support them. Very good. Have a good day.
For all the world is frightened, now that his own horizons have narrowed down to nothing at all. And he knows that if he doesn't, no one else will. Sacrifice himself for other people and be the one to answer the call. Once upon a time, everybody counted on a hero, pointed at the sky, look at him go. Yeah, just look at him go. More and more it feels like you were trading the fate and the genome that made him for a life that isn't on show, and see out the days in the kind of world that doesn't paint him, looking out for number one, waiting for a life he never has known. Once upon a time, everybody counted on a hero, pointed at the sky, look at him go. But he's tired and knows he can't hold everyone together. Now he got old. Wouldn't it be better if he said no for one night alone? Now he lays low, de-tunes both the TV and the radio, listens to the static as the screen does slow. There will come a time though, everybody counting on a hero, pointed at the sky, crying, where did he go? But he sat at home in his tight clothes, dreaming of the days when he was known, saving the world from the bad, but mostly he's sad and lonely. Sizing the lines around his eyes, he's finding the kind that only come from crying, hoping in this life they never will show. And then when the hiding proves to be too much for him, it's tiring to come out of the dark and do the right thing, save us from the bad and never go, never go, never go. Though it's tiring, he will do the right thing, and we will never know. Though it's tiring, yeah, he will do the right thing, and hold back the crying, so we will never know.
You've been listening to the Indie Music Room with Heather Kelly. Be sure to listen every Saturday and Sunday right here on FortDodgeRadio.com and subscribe for all our past and upcoming shows. The Indie Music Room is a production of FortDodgeRadio.com.